From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
An excessive heat warning that could jeopardize your health. On the hottest day of the year, volunteers are doing what they can to keep people cool.
Arizona's wildlife is thirsty for water. What the state is doing to keep animals hydrated during our drought.
What will you vote on in November? Today's the deadline for signatures for those hoping to get initiatives on the ballot.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Allison Snell.
And I'm Felipe Corral Jr. Thank you for joining us.
Today has been the hottest day of 2018 so far. This type of heat is not just dangerous, it could be deadly. We are facing an excessive heat warning for much of the state. As Emily Richardson reports, here in the Valley, volunteers are doing what they can to keep everyone safe.
I'm in Phoenix at a Salvation Army heat center where they provide water and air conditioning to people during extreme heat warnings.
We get a smile from the people we serve, whether it's passing out water or doing some of the other volunteer work that we do. It's a great reward, and it just helps us. It encourages us to continue to volunteer.
Joe Manfreda has been volunteering with the Arizona Salvation Army for more than 6 years. He says sitting in the heat is worth helping others.
It's a bit uncomfortable, but 3 hours is about enough. We don't want to do much more than that, but we survive, and it's worth it.
On top of having heat relief stations at their locations around the valley, they also dispatch mobile hydration units to portions of Metro Phoenix with high populations of homeless individuals.
Well, we want people to make sure that they stay healthy, that they don't have any heat-related illnesses or challenges.
But we know this is a necessary thing to do to get people water.
They say that even on days when they don't have heat centers set up, you can stop by their locations for water. In Phoenix, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
This heat wave is so severe that tonight the low temperatures might not drop below 95 degrees. Tonight and tomorrow, people are advised to stay indoors as much as possible, but there is a good chance the monsoon will finally appear. Rain and thunderstorms are in the weekend forecast for much of the high country. Here in the Valley, there's a chance we could also see some rain and possibly windy conditions with blowing dirt or a dust storm.
An underweight and dehydrated newborn foal is recovering tonight after being found abandoned. The horse was found earlier this week outside of Mesa. It's believed to be one of the wild horses that live along the Salt River in the Tonto National Forest. The horse is only a few days old and about half the weight it should be as a newborn. The Salt River Wild Horse Management Group is taking care of the animal. The group thinks it was born so weak because the wild horses are facing dehydration and malnourishment due to our 2-decade-long drought. There's a growing fear that wildlife across the state is facing dehydration from the lack of rain and winter snowmelt. Arizona Game and Fish has thousands of man-made watering sites. Jordan Daphnis reports how the state agency works to help wildlife from bugs to bears.
The first water catchments were built in the 1940s for game animal like quail and dove. The larger animals began drinking from the catchments, and the Game and Fish Department knew they needed to bring water to all Arizona wildlife. Now there are 3,000 water catchments providing water to all wildlife, from tiny insects to large bighorn sheep. You're not hallucinating. This is water in the middle of the desert. 10,000 gallons of water to be exact, kept here for wildlife by the Arizona Game and Fish Department.
If I turn this truck on, the water hits this apron and it runs down, and there's a gutter at the other end. And that gutter will collect that water and put it into the tanks that are underneath this roof.
The department has already brought out 650,000 gallons of water since January, but because of the dry season, they need to distribute a lot more.
So it was a hot, dry summer, and then we really didn't get very good monsoon. And we depend on the monsoon to help fill these things.
Joseph Curry, Habitat Planning Program Manager, says without water catchments, people would see even more wildlife in their cities and neighborhoods.
More human interaction. They would be coming into town looking for a way to survive. All of our animals are survivalists and they live in a very, very harsh environment.
Highways like this one are great for human travel, but they have the opposite effect for many Arizona animals. That's why the Arizona Game and Fish Department maintains water catchments so animals who aren't able to move around can have drinking water.
I just love the idea of building these catchments and helping the wildlife out, because these areas are just harsh. You know, it's a harsh place to live, and this allows them to survive it better.
The Arizona Game and Fish Department says these operations are not cheap, and they're asking for the public's help. You can help by donating money to fund things such as fuel, tires, and helicopter time. To donate, text SEND WATER to 41444. In downtown Phoenix, Jordan Daphnis, Cronkite News.
Chapter 2 for the Red for Ed movement is about to rev up. We are 124 days away from the November election, and this morning the group turned in 270,000 signatures for the Invest in Education Act. It's a controversial initiative to help fund public schools. I spoke with supporters and organizers about what's next.
People rallied at the Capitol this morning to show support for Invest in Ed potentially getting a slot on the November ballot.
The Red for Ed movement is here to stay.
What we want are better schools. The schools our children deserve.
The proposition would nearly double the income tax rates on those who earn more than $250,000, which could bring in $690 million in funding. They needed 151,000 signatures, and they turned in 270,000.
Today, we guarantee voters have the opportunity to show the legislature and show the governor that they are out of touch.
In just 6 weeks, Invest in Ed campaign and our community partners have collected enough signatures to qualify our initiative for the November ballot.
They're looking for local change.
We, as a state, want to truly welcome business, build our economy, and attract investment. The single most important thing that we can do is invest in education.
And they want to see change in classrooms.
For competitive salaries, lower class size, full-day kindergarten, the things districts know they need and what we know our students need.
Teachers like Christine Marsh agree.
Teachers are waking up and getting politically active, which we absolutely need to do on behalf of our students.
She explains that students need the right resources to succeed.
They're working really hard and yet not as productive in their learning and outcomes as they could be if they were in fully funded classrooms.
If the measure makes it to the ballot, it is expected to face a lot of opposition. The Arizona Chamber of Commerce has already promised to oppose it.
This morning, Clean Energy for a Healthy Arizona filed nearly 500,000 signatures with the Secretary of State's office. The ballot measure calls for increasing the state's renewable and solar energy standard. In essence, cleaner energy would then lower air pollution.
Clean air and water are essential to maintaining our health, and if we are given the choice this year from transitioning to dirty energy into clean, healthy, and affordable energy such as solar and wind, then we should embrace that choice.
The Clean Energy campaign will face pushback from utility companies which claim the initiative will raise your rates. There are also claims it could shut down the Palo Verde nuclear generating station.
The process of reuniting kids with their parents after they were separated at the border seems like a logistical nightmare.
But now, the government is turning to science. Coming up on Cronkite News, a new procedure to put in place to help children get back to their families.
Plus, a new photo exhibit examines a border wall, why the artist says a wall would damage much more than the U.S.-Mexico relations.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. The 2018 election season has arrived. Join us for primary and general election debates. Right here, meet the candidates and hear their positions. Arizona Horizon, your source for what matters most this election season. Only on Arizona PBS.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people to see those kids drink clean water for the first time. It's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt has resigned amid long-standing ethical scandals. President Donald Trump announced on Twitter that he has accepted Pruitt's resignation. This resignation follows months of criticism during which Pruitt was the subject of multiple ethical controversies that included questionable spending on security and travel. President Trump has confirmed that Deputy Andrew Wheeler will be taking over as the head of the EPA.
The U.S. Secretary of State is heading to Mexico next week. Mike Pompeo plans to meet with Mexico's current president and the president-elect, who will take office in December. The two sides are expected to discuss immigration and border security. Tonight, the Secretary of State is in North Korea. He has a planned meeting with Kim Jong-un. Pompeo says he wants to see action that shows Kim is serious about dismantling his nuclear program. Children who have been separated from their parents at the border are allegedly getting their DNA tested before returning to their families. Blood and saliva tests are being used to speed up the process of getting children back to their families. The testing is said to keep the children safe from being trafficked or smuggled by people claiming to be parents. Last week, the Department of Health and Human Services said more than 2,000 children from separated families are in its care. A federal judge in California set deadlines for the administration to reunite kids with their parents. By July 10th, children under 5 must be reunited, and by July 26th, all children should be back with their families.
Today, President Trump made another demand for Congress to pass immigration reform. He tweeted to Congress in all caps, typing, "Fix our insane immigration law now." Tonight, the president is in Montana. He will speak at a Make America Great Again rally for a couple of Republican candidates. The president is expected to touch on immigration. Local authorities also anticipate a large protest outside the venue. Washington has been grappling with immigration reform for a long time now, but one artist hopes to inspire lawmakers to look at the issue with fresh eyes. Pat Pobletti brings us the story from our Washington bureau.
When Krista Schleier first set out to document conditions at the U.S.-Mexico border, immigration was causing tensions between the two neighbors to ratchet up, which Schleier blames on the administration, the Clinton administration.
When I started, I was mostly focusing on wildlife, and the more that I learned about the borderlands, the more I realized that border wall construction and militarization was impacting human communities just as much as it was the wild communities.
Her new gallery of artwork is trying to change the way that politicians think about the border. The photographs are being displayed in the Russell Senate Office building as Congress continues to grapple with immigration policy, such as the rescission of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program and a Trump administration policy which has seen migrant children separated from their parents at the border. Representative Beto O'Rourke of Texas was in attendance at the debut of the gallery and called for Congress to put ideology aside to help these children.
Well, that's not us. That's not America. We are better than this, and I hope that the administration will rethink this. If they don't, it's on us in Congress to make sure that we have laws that reflect our values.
Immigration remains an ideologically dividing issue, though. New Mexico Senator Martin Heinrich slammed the decision by Attorney General Jeff Sessions to no longer grant asylum to victims of gang and domestic violence.
To say that that should have no bearing on how we treat asylum seekers is the most unconscionable decision I've ever seen out of the Department of Justice.
Schleier hopes that her vivid images will portray a sense of the reality of the border to our nation's top lawmakers.
People don't get that this is our life, this is our culture, and it's been this way for hundreds of years, and this policy is destroying the foundations of this landscape and the people who live there.
In Washington, Pat Pobletti, Cronkite News.
The Suns made a splash at the NBA draft.
They picked a 7-foot giant from the University of Arizona. Coming up on Cronkite News, the Phoenix Suns are about to start the NBA Summer League journey, and it's the first time we'll see DeAndre Ayton in action.
It is currently 112 here in Phoenix, so be sure to stay tuned because we are going to see some relief coming up next week.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic chip wreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
If you've racked up fines at the library, you can now pay them back with food. Tomorrow kicks off the Food for Fines Week at Maricopa County Libraries. For every non-perishable food item you donate, the library will waive $2 in overdue fines, up to $50 total. The libraries will then send the food to local food banks. Last year, they waived more than $35,000 in late fees.
We've been fortunate in Arizona this summer. So far, there hasn't been any devastating wildfires that have taken out communities or caused any deaths. But damaging wildfires are burning across the West. Large blazes are burning in both California and Colorado, forcing evacuations in several communities. The fires in both states have scorched nearly 100,000 acres combined. Tonight, more than 13,000 firefighters and support staff are working to try and contain the fires. And in Canada, brutal heat and smog has turned deadly. Across Quebec, there have been 33 heat-related deaths. It's the worst heat wave Quebec has seen in decades, with the high temperatures starting last Friday. City workers are now going door to door to make sure people are okay.
An excessive heat watch is in effect now until Friday evening for most of the valley. High temperatures today, tomorrow, and Saturday are all forecasted over 110 degrees. The National Weather Service says dry lightning could easily cause a wildfire over the next few days. There's also the chance of dust storms from the valley to Tucson.
Right now, the weather outside is miserable.
Hannah DeRuiter is in the Weather Center with what we can expect to see this weekend. Hannah?
Thanks, Allison. It's currently 112 degrees and sunny here in Phoenix with some slight winds. And take a look at our temperatures in the surrounding cities. 112 in Scottsdale, 111 down in Chandler, over in Glendale and in Goodyear. Over in Glendale 113 and in Goodyear 115. Now looking at our state highs for the day, in Phoenix 113, Tucson 108, in Lake Havasu City and in Quartzsite 111, and over in the Grand Canyon their high was 90 degrees. Now for those of us in the northwestern and southern region of our state, we are under an excessive heat warning that's effective from right now until tomorrow at 9 p.m. Now, for those of you in the area, be sure to look at these safety tips. The 3 most important ones: stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and avoid any unnecessary outdoor activity. Now, looking at this weekend's forecast, Friday we're going to hit a high of 112, Saturday a high of 111, and on Sunday a high of 109. Now, moving on into next week, we are going to see some relief. Monday and Tuesday, we're at a high of 102, and on Wednesday and Thursday, a high of 97 degrees, and on Thursday, we're hopeful for some thunderstorms. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Hannah Druder.
It's the most anticipated Phoenix Suns game in quite some time.
Their summer league season is about to tip off. The Suns are about to hit the court with a couple of top 10 draft picks.
I like working for Cronkite News because it gives us the opportunity to find a different angle on the same stories that every other news outlet is covering across Arizona. As students, we have the opportunity to cover issues in all across the state of Arizona.
It gives me a good chance to sharpen my skills, improve my skills, learn the techniques in a newsroom and in the programs and teamwork and technology, getting me prepared for the real world. And at the same time, I think we do a great job, make some great stories, do great journalism for the city of Phoenix and state of Arizona.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. Join us each weekday at 5:30 and 10 as we bring you the top newsmakers who impact the state. We cover the stories in depth that shape and affect our local communities, and we take the time to ensure that all voices are equally heard. For more than 30 years, Arizona Horizon has been your voice and your source for what matters most, right here on Arizona PBS.
Join us each week on Catalyst, the show that explores new advancements, technologies, and innovations at Arizona State University that are shaping the future for tomorrow and beyond. Catalyst, Wednesdays at 9, right here on Arizona PBS.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
Exploring, it's the lifeblood of the mission.
Human beings are a curious bunch.
What are we going to see when we get really close?
Wow.
Just because an idea is crazy, it's not necessarily wrong.
We were on our way.
You don't get anywhere until you've tested the limits.
That carries an intensity you can't imagine.
You could hear people just, whoa.
Oh my God, absolutely spectacular.
It's a rush.
We ask a lot of our heroes.
We are at a remarkable moment.
We're going farther than any exploration ever has.
Phoenix Suns fans will see the NBA's #1 overall pick and the team's new head coach for the first time in a game tomorrow at the NBA Summer League. Madison Curley caught up with the team earlier today before they left for Las Vegas.
The Suns hired Igor Kokoshkov as head coach in May, and just a couple weeks ago selected 4 players, including Arizona standout DeAndre Ayton in the NBA draft. Now all will debut together in the NBA Summer League this weekend. The Summer League spans 12 days and for the first time features all 30 NBA teams. The Suns will play at least 5 games and perhaps as many as 8, depending on how they perform in the tournament that wraps up league play. Although it's just an exhibition, Kokoshkov says it is critical to his team with so many young faces and a new coaching staff.
There is no one game that's not important. You know, when it comes to the summer league, regular season, it's off season, but we're building something different, something new, and starting from scratch. So it's important.
The Suns tip off Summer League play tomorrow night against the Dallas Mavericks at 6:30 p.m. In the Broadcast Center, Madison Curley, Cronkite News.
The wage gap between genders may start earlier than you think. The average woman earns 80 cents for every dollar a man makes in the workplace. And now, according to new data, this gap could start as early as grade school. 2018 data from a Chores and Allowance app reports that the average boy earning an allowance makes $13.80 every week. Girls, however, earn less than half of that, and at a mere $6.72. Parents may not be intentionally paying their kids different amounts based on gender, but the app's CEO says regardless of intent, it's happening.
Attention coffee drinkers, findings from a new study might have you reaching for another cup of Joe. Researchers in the United Kingdom looked at how coffee drinking habits affect lifespan. The study followed more than 500,000 participants for 10 years. The result, researchers found that the more coffee a person drinks, even up to 8 cups a day, the lower the risk of earlier death. According to the study, decaf coffee has the same benefit.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, there's an agreement to get a multi-state deal regarding Colorado River shortages in place by the end of the year, and a new way to more quickly clear accidents on Arizona freeways.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next NewsHour, the final installment in our series from Yemen, Behind Rebel Lines. That's Thursday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.